These are the Chat City interviews from 103.2 Preston FM.
Now, the National Garden Scheme has a rich and interesting history that is closely connected with nursing in the UK. In 1859, William Rathbone, a Liverpool merchant, employed a nurse to care for his wife at home, and after his wife's death, Rathbone kept the nurse on to help poor people in the neighbourhood. Later, Rathbone raised funds for the recruitment, training and employment of nurses to go into the deprived areas of the city. And since those days and the formation of the National Garden Scheme, it has continued to raise lots of money, and since its foundation, the National Garden Scheme has given more than £40 million to nursing and caring charities, including an amount last year, and of course this year the same thing is about to happen. And to tell me more in the studio, it's nice to welcome Chris Mortimer. Chris, a very good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
And you yourself, part of the National Garden Scheme with your own garden up here in the northwest. How long have you been involved?
I've been involved with the National Garden Scheme for something like 23, 24 years.
And is this then an annual event where you open? How does it kind of work as you know, being involved with them? How does it work?
Well, I open my garden usually 2 weekends a year. Sometimes it's been 3 weekends, and usually, but perhaps not quite usually, I usually open for Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon. Rather fewer people come on Saturday afternoon, but it gives you a chance to chat with them. Sunday afternoon, one is just standing there and watching the crowds come in, hopefully.
Right, and people make a donation?
No, we charge £4 a head for adults. Children come free. It's quite an exciting garden, my garden for children, as long as parents keep an eye on them.
Yes. So you live in Samlesbury?
In Samlesbury Bottoms. My garden is alongside the river Darwen.
Wow, sounds nice.
Oddly enough, because there was once mills where my garden is now, I own both banks, which gives me all sorts of opportunities, for example, a bridge over the river, towers on the other side, and so on.
That sounds lovely. So what about, I mean, how long have you been a gardener, Chris? Is it something that you've enjoyed all of your life?
Well, I used to help my grandmother weed her garden, and then my mother. Then, of course, I was teaching abroad for a while, and I was fascinated by the speed at which plants grew in a subtropical climate. When I came back, I was gardening in Manchester in quite a small garden, and then moved up to where I live now at Millbarn, where it was, in fact, an empty shell of a building, an industrial waste tip, and I've taken it from there.
Right. And, I mean, we're being told, we were just talking about the weather yesterday, that the climate is changing and that we do have a warmer climate now than ever before, maybe a little wetter. But are you able to grow any kind of subtropical plants in your garden? That's not a possibility, is it not?
That's not a possibility, because warm temperate plants depend on there being no frost. So you're looking at some peninsulas, sort of in Wales, Cornwall, the peninsula, the Aran Islands, places like this. But if there's frost, no, we're cool temperate.
So within your garden, what are the species that you like to grow? Well,
I've got a lot of hardy perennials. I try and choose plants that look after themselves. They're somewhere between. They enjoy themselves, but they're not thugs. So they fill up the space, and there's precious little room for weeds if the bed's happy.
Right. And as a keen gardener talking about the climate, have you seen a change in the way, you know, you have to kind of work the garden? We were told only a few weeks ago of plants being maybe 2 or 3 weeks in advance in flowering of maybe last year.
Well, I think we've got to be careful not to just look at year to year, because that can be very random. But it is certainly warmer than when I first came up here to this garden in about 1972. The frequency of cold winters has gone right down. It's not to say they don't occur, but they're less common. And, for example, the storm yesterday is much more... It's the sort of storm that you would experience if you were in northern Italy. It's because you've got very hot air meeting cool air or rising, and you get these violent storms, which, again, I think the frequency has increased.
So it's not created a lot of extra work for you before this weekend?
No, I mean, the garden, we had a storm, was it last week or the end? No, yes, in the middle of the week, which swept across the yard and made some holes in flower beds as it went along to the river, but nothing serious.
I mean, by opening gardens, there really are quite some impressive amounts of money being raised. I mean, last year in 2013, for instance, for Macmillan Cancer Support, £450,000 was raised. Marie Curie, 450. Hospices, 400. Care Trust, 300. The Queen's Nursing Institute, 200. Perennial, 100. Parkinson, 100, and other donations £128. So lots of
128 million.
Yes, sorry, 1,000, isn't it?
Sorry, 1,000. Yes,
128,000. So lots of impressive amounts of money being raised for.
That's right. I mean, last year my garden alone raised about £1,600.
Right. And do you nominate your own charity, or does it then go into a central pot? And
No, I actually contribute everything to the National Garden Scheme. You have the authority to divert some of the proceeds from, for example, plants or teas to a named local charity, but I choose not to do that because I'm not actually connected with any of the named local charities.
And as you say, it's a nice way when you're able to of talking to the people who come along to visit the gardens. Are they often people who themselves are gardeners?
It's a mixture. Quite a few are gardeners, and if they come from a distance, they're more likely to be gardeners. But we very much welcome a lot of people who just want to see a garden and sit in it and think, I haven't got the energy to do this, but it's nice.
That's right, yes. And is it quite a large area that you have?
Well, when I bought where I live now in 72, 73, they said it was about 2/3 of an acre, but that wasn't counting the river or the bank on the far side. And then with a neighbour, we bought the hillside between where I live at the very bottom and the road, and that was a bit more. And then somebody sold me a bit more. And in fact, if you add it all up now, it's nearly 5 acres.
Dearie.
But that's not all gardened.
So you spend, I would take it, a lot of time in there to make certain that you maintain it to the degree that you want it maintained.
To the degree that I want it maintained. No, I like there is no such thing as a natural garden, because if you leave certain weeds, it'll be a forest within 5 years. You know, the sycamore seedlings, the ash seedlings and all those things, and the oaks that squirrels plant in the middle of the lawn,
yes,
and so on. No, but I like it fairly relaxed. This year I'm lucky enough to have a man who actually lives in part of my house, who's been helping me in the garden, which has meant I've been able to keep what I call my mowed herbage to a slightly higher standard than I would otherwise have done, because all the time I want to spend time on projects rather than maintenance.
So for people visiting this weekend,
yes,
any particular or any favourite species that you would recommend that they look out for? What is your particular favourite?
Well, I've got a rose, Paul's Himalayan musk, that has grown up into the top of a sycamore tree, must be 20 meters high, and that's flowering incredibly at the moment. That is very lovely. Some of the Thalictra are flowering very well at the moment, but on the whole I go for species that are near natural. So you've got, if you like, a green border with coloured highlights where the flowers are, rather than, if you like, the big what do you call them? Those sort of big plants. What am I thinking of?
So a contrast of colours, in effect.
Yes.
And for people, again, coming along, tell us the times that people can. It's £4 entry,
and it's from 1 o'clock till 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
On both, is it
on
Saturday and
Sunday? and I've got parking that I hope won't be too wet on a field with plenty of space, about, I suppose, 200 yards uphill. But if you've got a disabled person with you, you're welcome to come down into the yard and we'll see what we can do about parking there.
And Chris, were again for people directions as to how to find you?
Right. Well, if you come up from Junction 31 at the Tickle Trout, and then all those new traffic lights where the Worley Road goes off, you go straight on towards Blackburn on the A677. Then you'll see Mezzo's, an Italian restaurant, on your right-hand side. After that, you turn right down Nab's Head Lane, go round the Nab's Head into Goosefoot Lane, and as you're going down there, you'll see the parking. But as I said, if you've got somebody disabled or can't walk, go straight on, and there'll be notices at the bottom of the hill how to get into the garden.
And for people who often have sat navs these days, do you have a postcode they can put in?
PR5 0 Sierra Sierra SS.
And people can also go to the NGS site, Gardens Open for Charity, and also locate you on that site.
Yes, and there's a description of the garden there, and some pictures.
Lovely. Well, can I thank you for coming in this morning, and hopefully climate will be nice over the weekend, decent weather, and lots of people visiting, raising money for worthwhile causes.
Yes, the weather forecast is much better than last weekend.
Lovely. Well, Chris, thank you for coming into Chat City this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you've got news, views or events you'd like to share with us and the Chat City team, why not give us an email? chatcity@preston.fm.